What's up, folks? Welcome to Moment of Clarity. Hope you're doing well out there. As you can tell, I'm not in my normal locale. I'm on vacation or break or something, whatever you want to call it, which, as you can tell, I'm not good at taking breaks. So I'm not taking a break at this minute. But in general, I'm kind of taking a break. But yeah, I got several stories for you I want to cover. One on YouTube, it just admitting in their new policies that they're stealing money from creators. So that's lovely. That's good of them to admit that, huh? And then I also want to get into another problem with the new infrastructure bill that Biden and Congress is looks like they're going to pass. And Dave's asking if that's Canada behind me. I don't know why he thinks that, but no, it's not. But anyway, so I'm going to get into that. I know many of you are thinking, like, but what about Afghanistan? It's all about Afghanistan, right? Shit is going down in Afghanistan. Well, the reason I'm not talking about Afghanistan is because I'm going to talk about it on Government Secrets. We're going to spend like most of the hour on it in Government Secrets with Graham Elwood. That's part of my break. See how I take breaks? Is basically I do almost the same amount of work, but I call it a break because I don't have the same background. That's the difference. That's the difference between me on break, me not on break. But yeah, so we're going to talk about Afghanistan. We're going to get into a lot of the details on Government Secrets. There's two ways to watch that. One is the live stream on Graham's channel, and then it'll come up later on my channels as well, or you could listen to the podcast, Government Secrets. But anyway, that's why I'm not going to dig into Afghanistan right now. Instead, I'm going to save that. Lame Flip is asking, where the F have I been? I've been on for I've been kind of on break for 7 days so far, and I have 7 left. It's a big, huge 2-week break. I know it's unheard of in America's form of capitalism to have a 2-week break, but it's not really a break as I'm talking to you right now. And on top of that, I actually had a new Redacted VIP come out last week, hosted by me. So that also was not break. And then there was a new Redacted Tonight hosted by Naomi. So that did count as part of my break, hosted by Naomi Caravani. But anyway, all that's at Rad Indie Media. Also, my site's down, so that's fun. So my site's taking a break, too, leecamp.com. Rad Indie Media is still going strong. Leecamp.com is on break, apparently. It saw that I took a break, and it was like, you know what? Fuck this website. We're down. So anyway, but you can still watch all that stuff at YouTube, even if you can't get it at leecamp.com. But, okay, all of that bullshit past us. I'm going to get into a couple of stories here. I'll save the YouTube story for 1 second. Get into that in a minute. I also have a good news story. What are the odds of that? So, and yes, someone's asking if I know what the U.S. is doing in Ethiopia. Actually, I covered that on Redacted VIP a couple of weeks ago. Did a long form interview on that, and it's at youtube.com/redacted tonight. You can watch it there. It was also up at radindiemedia.com. But let's start off with this story about what is going on in the infrastructure bill that you have not heard about, that has kind of been kept a secret, that they're keeping on the DL because they want you to believe that the infrastructure bill is just meant to help America, right? That is all. That is it. It's just helping America get back to good. That was literally the motto of the DC Metro, was back to good. When I live in Washington, D.C. now, and the Metro, back to good. Way to shoot for the skies, D.C. Metro. But it actually is kind of accurate. It's kind of what America is trying to do. We're trying to get back to good. If we could just get back to like, then we'd be doing awesome. So, but in this infrastructure bill, which we did 2 segments on the last like 2 Redacted Tonights on how the infrastructure bill, the reason it's bipartisan, the reason all of these corrupt, horrific, fucking psychopathic politicians in Congress have come together to say, yeah, we love this infrastructure bill, is because it sells off a lot of America. It is privatizing, or they call it private-public partnership, it's privatizing several things, aspects of America that have remained public or not privatized until now. And so it's a large. It may improve some things, like let's say the some of the water systems get fixed in your city. You may go, well, thank goodness that infrastructure bill fixed our water. But at the same time, they're selling off your water to private interests. So it doesn't mean certain things won't get fixed, but it also means, hey, the reason you've got sociopaths voting yay on this bill is because it's selling it off to private corporations. They can make a lot of money by doing that. But this is so we covered that on Friday night. I want to cover another aspect, which is that there are billions of dollars, and this story was also up at radindymedia.com. Let's see there. So there's billions of dollars in the new infrastructure plan for something called blue hydrogen. Now, maybe you guys are smarter than me. I had never heard the term blue hydrogen. I'd heard of hydrogen power, but I never heard of someone calling it blue hydrogen. Oh, it's blue hydrogen. Well, that must be completely different. If it's blue, if the color seems awesomer, then not gossamer, but awesomer, then it must be better. So I'll read a little from this. This is at popularresistance.org. While celebrated as a climate victory by the Biden administration, the large infrastructure bill passed in the U.S. Senate this week includes billions of dollars of funding toward quote-unquote blue hydrogen, which new research published Thursday finds is more polluting than coal. Than fucking coal. Do you have any idea how horrific coal is? Coal is like the worst of the worst, all right? Coal is the shit that destroys your lungs, destroys whole areas of the planet. Coal is fucking horrific, and blue hydrogen is somehow worse. How did they even find anything worse? The $550 billion bipartisan infrastructure package passed Tuesday includes $8 billion to develop, now they're calling it clean hydrogen, quote unquote, clean hydrogen, or also known as blue hydrogen, via the creation of 4 regional hubs. The White House claims that the bill is in step with Joe Biden's climate goals. Joe Biden, just that great climate warrior. And advocates of hydrogen energy champion it as a low emissions alternative for various uses, such as fuel shipping, trucking, aviation, and heating. But new research published in the Journal of Energy Science and Engineering finds that the carbon footprint to create blue hydrogen is more than 20% greater than using either natural gas or coal directly for heat, or about 60% greater than using diesel oil. How are they even finding something as fucking horrific or even worse than coal and diesel? These are the dirtiest fuels we have. These are dirty on the level of just churning up your friends and family and just putting them into the gears or something that just blends them, and you just pour that into your gas tank. Where do they even find anything worse than coal and diesel? The fossil fuel industry has enthusiastically pushed for blue hydrogen as a clean energy source, but the scientists warn that this product is not the same as gray hydrogen, derived from methane production, or the green hydrogen, commonly viewed as an important fuel for future energy transition. According to a statement from the researchers, an ecologically friendly green hydrogen, oh my God, can we get over the fucking stupid colors of hydrogen? Oh, this is a quote from the research study. An ecologically friendly green hydrogen does exist, but it retains a small sector and it has not been commercially realized. Oh, God. I hate that terminology, too. Green hydrogen is achieved when water goes through electrolysis with electricity supplied by solar, wind, or hydroelectric power, and the water is separated into hydrogen and oxygen. So that's different than the process for producing blue hydrogen, which starts with converting methane to hydrogen and carbon dioxide by using heat, steam, and pressure, or gray hydrogen, but goes further to capture some of the carbon dioxide. Once the byproduct carbon dioxide and the other impurities are sequestered, it becomes blue hydrogen, according to the U.S. Department of Energy. And they say that it was pretty striking. Blue hydrogen is a nice marketing term that the oil and gas industry is keen to push, but it's far from carbon free. I don't think we should be spending our funds this way on this sort of false solutions. Climate advocates and progressives have slammed the $550 billion bipartisan infrastructure bill as wholly insufficient. So you get the point. Blue hydrogen is a joke, and there's billions of dollars for it in the infrastructure plan. This is corrupt politicians giving away and going in for whatever oil and gas wants, whatever big fossil fuel is pushing today. And it also, of course, if you dig down past that layer, right? So that's layer one, fuck these politicians and this bullshit and this big oil companies that own them. Then you dig down layer two and you go, oh, it's capitalism, right? Because any solution that they're going to come up with, that these fucking shills and kooks in Congress are going to come up with or are going to prove, it has to further and foster capitalism. It has to be a part of this capitalist system that is defined by, say it with me, profit over all else, right? It's got to make a big profit. No, at no point do they just say, will this help make our world sustainable? At no point is that a factor in their discussion. It might be a factor in the bullshit they spout out of their face, but at no point in their decisions is it just about sustainability. Fuck the profit motive. We just need to do what's right. That doesn't happen. It does not happen. And so instead, it's just, how can we make the most money out of this? How can we? Now, big oil has been pushed to realize that they've got to branch out beyond just big oil, because the activism, the protests, the lawsuits are getting to be a little too much. So now they're finding ways to branch out that sound good, like blue hydrogen. It's so blue. Oh my God, it just makes everything blue. It just makes the water blue and the air blue and everything's blue. And we're so happy because it's blue. So they push towards the thing that sounds good, even though it's polluting worse in terms of emissions than coal and diesel. But they don't care about that because the sustainability of the planet is not a factor in their discussions, in their plans, in the efforts they put towards this Congress, towards getting bills through. It's not a factor. So that is story number one. I'll save the good news story for the end because you probably need it by then. Oh, and by the way, another kind of factor to this, another portion of this, which is also up at radindymedia.com. It's a great new article by Stephen Simler about the cost of climate change. Let's see. Oh, it's not on the first page anymore, I think. But anyway, the cost of climate change. So his thing is called Speaking Security. All proposed climate change programs, like all of the programs that you've heard proposed that are not getting passed, like the Green New Deal, etc. If you were to take all of those proposed programs and put them on a bar graph next to the amount that we spend on the Pentagon alone, on military alone, it would be less than 2/3 of what we spend on the Pentagon per year, on the military, on war, on killing, on destruction. If you take all of the proposed climate change plans, all the plans that have been put forward by various people, Green New Deal and various other ones, it would still be far less than we spend on the Pentagon. So if you were to cut our Pentagon budget down to something even remotely close to what other countries have and take all of the excess, that 500 billion or whatever it is, take all of that extra and put it towards every climate plan solution that has been put forward, you could pay for them all and still have hundreds of billions of dollars for our military. So I feel like that might be a good place to start if you wanted a real infrastructure plan, if you wanted a real climate change plan, if Joe Biden was actually a real fucking genuine vehicle for large scale change, then how about that? How about doing that? But no, of course not. Can't have that because that doesn't really make everybody profit the way they want to. So there's story one. Let's get on to another. This is the one I titled the video this, and I'm sure the video is going to do very well in the YouTube algorithm when you title the video YouTube stealing from their creators. I really know how to get hits. I mean, honestly, if you really want to find out how to just tank your numbers, then talk to me, because I know every term that the algorithm is like alerts and it says do not show this to everybody. I put all of those terms in every title and I say all of them to you. And yeah, so if you really want to like just hurt your numbers and tank your numbers and everything, which is part of, that's how you end up with content creators and people doing media, doing commentary, etc. That's how you end up with them self-censoring. It's actually incredibly effective. You end up with a large amount of self-censoring just because people know, hey, if I title this video, the U.S. is creating terrorism in Afghanistan, then it's not going to do well. The algorithm will stop it. The systems that YouTube has in place to stop that kind of discussion will kick into high gear, and the video will not do well. So you end up with a lot of self-censorship. You end up with a lot of people only naming their videos, oh my God, look at what Sean Hannity said, or Anderson Cooper said, or whatever, which it's not like I've never had a video like that, but people end up making their videos only that because the algorithm doesn't really hurt that unless you say mainstream media is doing something, CNN is doing something. Anyway, that was not my point. My point was, as a content creator myself, I got an email from YouTube, and I'm going to show it to you here. This is YouTube's email to everybody. By the way, if you see various pornographic emails in the sidebar on my emails, please read them and enjoy. So, this is the email from YouTube. You're receiving this email because we're updating our terms of service. Here's a summary of the changes. Facial recognition restrictions, like they actually care about your security. They do everything they can to mine your data. You think they give a shit about who they reveal? But anyway, that's not the one I was talking about. YouTube's right to monetize. YouTube has the right to monetize all content on the platform, and ads may appear on videos from channels not in the YouTube Partner Program. Now, think about that for a second. And by the way, let me just say up front, YouTube's been doing this for years. They just now have decided to acknowledge it and put it in their terms of service. So this is something YouTube has been doing this kind of theft from content creators for years. But right now they're finally like, you know what? We'll just go out and announce it. We'll just let everybody know we're doing it. So think about this. First of all, that means that if you choose to not have ads on your YouTube videos, then you're fucked. You cannot now choose to not have ads on your YouTube videos. I have had different iterations of my YouTube channels. The first one was before I had the show Redacted Tonight. And that channel, actually, I refused to have ads on it. And I never did have ads on it, even though it makes money, even though you could make money. And some people make a lot of money from ads. I chose not to have ads because I didn't want to have that, cause that to viewers, have that influence, have, Chevron ads on my channel. So I refused to have ads, and it hurt me in other ways. But then they started making it so that if you don't allow ads on your channel, they'll stop showing the videos to people because they want to make money. So why would they bother showing people videos that don't give them ad money? So then they kind of made it impossible for me not to have ads on. I kind of, if I wanted people to see the videos, I had to allow at least the little 5-second ad on the video. Also, the Redacted Tonight YouTube channel is not mine. So, it puts up the TV show, but I don't own it. So therefore, the decision to have ads on that one's not up to me. And none of the money goes to me. None of that money from the ads. And then I have the newer channel called Moment of Clarity, which many of you are probably watching this on right now. And that channel, I decided to allow the 5-second ad for two reasons. One is because the algorithm fucks you if you don't allow the ads. But more importantly, I do the thing where I donate all of the super chat donations. And you can't have super chat donations if you aren't a part of the partner program. So in order to do that, in order to do this thing where I've donated tens of thousands of dollars to various charities, or nowadays we have the Solidarity Fund, where if you're struggling, we try and get the money to you. And so we've been doing that over a couple of years now, and that couldn't exist without allowing ads, without being part of the partner program. So anyway, that's all to say that that's been my progression with YouTube. But for a long time, if you were not in the partner program or you refused to have ads in some way, then you wouldn't have ads. That could be a choice a content creator make. And then as of a couple of years ago, I noticed that on the channel I have that does not allow ads, I started seeing ads. On videos I had that I knew didn't have ads, I started seeing ads. And so in the back of my mind, I'm going, well, I wonder where that money's going, because whatever money is collected from those ads is not going to me. And so I was wondering about it. Well, now you have it. Now you have it in black and white. YouTube has emailed everybody and said, hey, we will be stealing money from content creators. Either if you've chosen not to have ads, we are going to put ads on that channel. We're going to collect money from those advertisers. Why the fuck do you think they have ads there? Because they paid for them. So we're going to collect money from those advertisers. Some of that is supposed to go to the content creator, but we're not going to give it to them because these content creators have chosen not to have ads. So fuck them. We're going to put the ads on there anyway, and we're going to steal the money from them. But then there's also another group, which is people YouTube decided not to allow to be content creators. I mean, not to allow to be partners, or they've demonetized. Graham Elwood, who co-hosts Government Secrets with me, my podcast and his podcast, that he has been demonetized. His YouTube channel has been completely demonetized for months, mainly because I think he covered Epstein a lot. Basically because he spoke the truth, he's been demonetized. And I covered Epstein too, but not as much as he did. He was really on that beat. Then we also, he got demonetized right after we did a 3-part series on the truth about the JFK assassination. So that also could have weighed in on the decision to demonetize his channel. But he's one example. There are many others. There's a myriad of content creators doing important work who have been demonetized. Well, now YouTube is saying we may put ads on those channels and just steal the money from you. So there may still be ads on channels of people that have been demonetized. There may still be ads on channels that are too small to be monetized. Nowadays, in order to get into their partner program, you have to have, thousands of views and 1,000 subscribers, whatever the numbers are. But you have to be of a certain size. YouTube realized, hey, we could just put ads on all the smaller channels that don't have 1,000 subscribers, steal that money from the creators, and not have to worry about it. Because they're not big enough to get into our partner program. They're not big enough for us to give a fuck about them. But if you add all of them up, if you had all those people with 500 subscribers across YouTube, all of YouTube's massive, fucking footprint online, that's a lot of fucking video views right there. And if we were to put ads on all of them, steal the money from the content creators, that's a lot of money in YouTube's pocket. And so they have now admitted in their terms of service, we will be doing that. We will be stealing money from all the content creators that we can. If they've been demonetized, if they choose not to have ads, if they're not big enough to be a partner program channel, we will just put ads on there, steal the money we actually owe them, and we're letting you know in your terms of service. So, yet another reason to love, as Graham Elwood calls it, Stalin Tube. Which I feel like is kind of insulting to Stalin. It should really be like, Darth Vader Tube or something. Joe Biden, Donald Trump tube, something more insulting. Anyway, this is yet another reason that we have to build up the alternatives. One of them's Panquake. There's a new Panquake interview with Ron Polcone on radindymedia.com, and you can check that out. But there are alternatives growing. Rockfin's one of them. Another one is Rockfin. So I'm at rockfin.com/Lee Camp. We got to build up the alternatives while we continue to use every platform that is a tool for activism, for change, for creating change. So YouTube's still a tool. It's dwindling in size for those of us who actually want to create a real change, for those of us who actually want to do something positive in this world. The tool of YouTube or Facebook used to be a fucking sledgehammer, and now they've slowly whittled away at it so that now we're down to like a little Swiss Army knife. I realize I'm mixing my metaphors. I don't think you can whittle a sledgehammer into a Swiss Army knife. I mean, if you can, God bless you. That's impressive talent. But anyway, Swiss Army knife. So now we're down to here, and we're taking the toothpick, and we're going, we got the corkscrew out, and we're just using that. It's about this big now, but it's still something. Better than not using the tools that are available. So I'm not, that's why I don't tell people like, just delete YouTube, delete your Facebook, delete everything. Because the truth is, it's still, if you add it all up, if you add all the activists around the world that are using these platforms, they're still powerful. They're just not nearly as powerful. And they're slowly shrinking the influence of anyone outside of corporate allowable talking points, thinking points, the mindscape that is acceptable to our ruling elite, to our capitalist gods of shit that are continuing to drive this planet down a death spiral. Again, mixing my metaphor. I mean, I guess you could drive on a spiral. It'd be kind of weird. Like, why are you fucking doing that? Why doesn't this road go anywhere? It's just spiraling, but still driving us down a death spiral. But yeah, so that's what YouTube, it's nice to see them admit this. It's kind of like when Google decided to finally get rid of their motto, which was don't be evil. Google's motto used to be don't be evil. Eventually, they just literally said in like their bylaws that they took it out. They literally were like, oh, you know what? It's time to be a little evil. A little evil. We've been being a little evil. Why don't we just admit it and take it out of our charter or whatever the fuck? So this is kind of similar to that. YouTube finally admitting we will be stealing from content creators. We're going to steal as much as we can. And yes, you deserve this money, but we will not be giving it to you. So good to see. Good to see. I got one more story for you before I wrap it up. And just for those of you who showed up late, if you're wondering why I'm not talking about Afghanistan, what the fuck's the matter with him? Everything's about Afghanistan right now. I will be covering it extensively with Graham Elwood on Government Secrets. We'll be live streaming that later today at Graham Elwood's YouTube channel, demonetized YouTube channel, and on Rockfin. And it will also come out on our podcast platform, which is called Government Secrets, free on any podcast platform, which, by the way, the podcast platforms have also been discussing ways to begin crushing alternative thought. It hasn't really started yet, but I imagine it will get going soon. Okay, final story. This is the one of the rare good news ones. Also up at radindymedia.com. This is over in Australia. I don't do enough Australia stories, but Australia is on their healing journey. The Australian government announced on Thursday that it will pay reparations to members of its indigenous population who were forcibly removed from their families as children. More than 100,000 indigenous children, known as the Stolen Generation, were taken from their families between 1900 and 1970. Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd described it as a great stain on our nation's soul, to put it mildly. Members of the Stolen Generation who are still alive will now be able to claim 75,000 Australian dollars or 39,000 pounds in reparations. They will also be given support to address their health needs. The Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the reparation scheme was intended to say formally not just that we're deeply sorry for what happened. We don't know what happened. We're sorry something happened. We don't. Why did that happen? Not only to say we're deeply sorry for what happened, but that we will take responsibility for it. The Healing Foundation, which represents indigenous communities, said the reparations were a major step in the healing journey of Stolen Generations survivors. It urged the government to provide trauma support to those affected as part of the scheme. So that is going on in Australia. And this is actually very similar to something I covered on multiple shows on Redacted Tonight and podcast Common Censored, is the so-called residential schools that there's been a lot of talk about it in Canada. They've even been burning down churches and things like that in response to all the bodies mainly of children that have been found at these residential school locations where indigenous children were kidnapped, taken to these schools, abused thoroughly, and even the ones that were not abused by, murder or rape or something like that, even those that didn't have to go through that still went through cultural genocide, having their basically their entire culture ripped away from them, their names, their looks, their clothing, their hair, their traditions, all of it ripped out from underneath them, which you can imagine how much that fucks a person up. And it was done in the U.S. too. I talked about the Carlisle School, one of the most notorious in the United States, but it went on around the United States, and the last ones in the U.S., I believe, closed in 1979. So we're not talking about that long ago. And same with Australia, same kind of shit. Children being basically forcibly removed from indigenous communities, from indigenous families, and then having cultural genocide perpetrated against them. Now, I don't know the death numbers that went on in Australia in terms of whether they also have the problem of these mass graves of children where they just couldn't help but killing a lot of these kids. You'd think sending kids to a school, death wouldn't be that common. You'd think it'd be kind of rare unless you're really fucking abusing these children. But it turns out at these schools in the US and Canada, very common to kill a lot of these kids. So anyway, unlike the US and Canada, Australia appears to be giving reparations of some sort to these families. Now, will it solve the problem? Will it solve the ramifications? Will it mean that this shit is all fine and good and let's move on? No. There's no way you can, a family who lost a loved one or someone who was beaten and abused thoroughly and has suffered the emotional ramifications the rest of their lives. There's no way you can say, hey, here's $40,000. That should do it. You're all better, right? No, of course not. But it is better than nothing. And you're not seeing, so far, you're not seeing it in the United States. They're not offering, the U.S. is not offering reparations to the indigenous families harmed in this horrific cultural genocide. The only thing the U.S. done is recently they gave back some of the bodies. That's what the U.S. Recently, they said, hey, here are some of the remains of the children we murdered. Thank you. Have a good day. See you later. Don't forget to salute Uncle Sam. Just crazy, horrific shit. But there's a little bit small positive step in the right direction of at least acknowledging the pain that was caused, acknowledging the harm that was caused to some degree. And it's I'm kind of surprised Australia is doing this, considering Australia's government is, as garbage just about as America. But good for them for taking one small step. I'm sure there's many others. You could probably find out what other steps the indigenous would like to see in Australia by checking that Healing Institute the Healing Foundation, which represents indigenous communities. But anyway, that story was also up at radindymedia.com, and I'm going to get into Afghanistan and everything that they're not saying on the mainstream media. as they go into a frothing fervor about what's going on in Afghanistan. There's so much they're not telling you, so much they're keeping secret. We'll go into that on government secrets. But if you did donate on the Super Chat or you donate on Venmo at Lee Camp, whether you're watching this live or not, you can donate on Venmo or you donate on Rockfin. All of that is passed on without taking a cut. That all goes to the Solidarity Fund to help people who are struggling, people who are having a rough time right now. If that's you, you can email commoncensored@protonmail.com. There will be a new Redacted tonight and Redacted VIP this week, not hosted by me. Naomi Caravani will be hosting again this week, but I'll be back the week after that. So check that out. And there'll be a new Common Censored podcast as well this week that will be hosted by me and Eleanor Goldfield. So don't miss that. All right. I think that's it for now. Keep fighting.